It's so awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for joining, Yasmin. Do you want to just do a really quick intro to yourself and say hi?
Hello. Hi. Yeah, so I am Yasmin Ali. I'm a chartered chemical engineer, and I've worked in the energy sector for the last 11 years now. And I currently work at the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, or BEIS for short. And I work as an innovation program manager. So I manage funding for energy innovation projects, which is really good fun. And I guess also that's the work side of things, but I also do a lot of engineering communication type stuff. So talking at schools or to teachers or parents or the public about the amazing work that engineers do.
Mm-hmm. This is why I'm so excited. Just and right. It's like an and an and. It's great. Yeah. That's why I do love
track.
Don't we all? It's amazing chatting to you because you have so many streams to you. We can cover quite a few things because I was thinking, we can talk about the move that you did from your engineering job into where you are now, BEIS. So before we went live with this, Yasmin was just telling me that it's pronounced BEIS. I was calling it Bez. Don't know why. But yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's like tomato, whatever you want.
Potato, potato.
Potato. Another
one. Does anyone say
potato? Potato. I don't know. I feel like they might. I say toothbrush, not toothbrush, which is a bit weird, I've been told.
Yeah, that's
anyway, we go off track. I was just thinking, that we can talk about the move and the transition that you did, because I know that for some people doing a move like that is quite daunting and scary, and it takes a lot of kind of motivation and strength to do it. Or maybe not, or maybe you're just super chill. I know you are a very relaxed person, so it could be the opposite. And then also talking about your, the presenting, and maybe having a chat about kind of confidence that goes along with it. And the one thing that I find with presenting is that it's useful both in front of camera, but also in meetings as well, even if you just need to talk to a couple of people. But let's start off with, your career move. So where were you? Why did you want to leave? And how did you make it happen? Big question.
Yeah. Okay. So I was at E.ON, and I joined E.ON, which is the big utility company, just after graduating. So I did a grad scheme with them, and then did a job for about 5 years in oil and gas, and then moved to their district heating unit. So by that point, I'd been in the company for 7 years, and I was getting more and more concerned about sustainability and climate change stuff. And I kind of wanted to do something where I had more of an overview of the energy industry. So I wanted to stay in energy, but I didn't want to be doing one little bit of it. And I thought, okay, maybe I could do consulting, or I could work in government, or I came up with a whole bunch of options, not just by myself. I talked to people. So I talked to mentors and friends, and came up with these things and wrote them down. And eventually decided I'm just going to quit this job because I wasn't enjoying it that much. And I thought I'll leave and try and find something else. So I did. And it took quite a bit longer than I expected to get another job. It took about 9 months to start working again. But I was pretty selective, and I really wanted something that met the objectives that I'd written down. But I applied for lots of things, had lots of interviews, had loads and loads of these informal chats, and then eventually got a position at BEIS, where I am now. So that's the short version of the story.
Wow. There's a lot in that. So when you quit your job, you decided that you didn't want to do that anymore. So did you, out of interest, Did you have like, did you save up to be able to do that? Because obviously, I think so many people would just love to quit their job. So it's like, how do you make that happen?
Yeah, so that's obviously a big consideration. It's going to sound weird, but was lucky enough to be made redundant from the oil and gas job that I was doing. So there was a redundancy package that came with that, and that could have kept me going for, that could have kept me going for a while. So I had that squirreled away, which was helpful. But yeah, it's definitely a consideration, and I wouldn't recommend quitting your job unless you can be financially stable. And there are other ways of doing it. So like you could spend evenings and weekends looking for other jobs and doing it that way. But I just thought I'm going to leave and focus all of my time on finding another job.
Yeah, getting that like clean cut break. And I think doing a massive career move in that sense, well, it's not that big because you're still in engineering, but it's a change of angle. And I think at the time, when I speak to a lot of engineers now, they feel like a jump like that is huge and really big, but actually you're using the same skills, but in a completely different way. Would you agree?
Yes and no.
You can say no.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are, but I think it's not even the fact that it was a big jump, but I think even just moving organizations can be quite daunting, even if you move in the same sector, like doing the same job. You just go to a different company and it still takes, I don't know, 3 or 4 months to get to know new people and get to settle in. So it's not really, I don't see it as that different from any job move. There's some stuff that was enlightening or helpful for me during that time that I would probably like to share.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. One particular thing, I guess, where I felt like I had applied for about 1,000 jobs and I wasn't getting anywhere. And that, I think that feeling is quite common when you're doing something and just getting rejections or getting no response from anyone. It can be really demoralizing. So I dealt with that by keeping meticulous data on everything I was doing. So I had a spreadsheet which had the things I was looking for in, but I also had a record of like where I'd applied, who I'd spoken to, and then I made a little scorecard which showed how many applications I'd done, how many interviews I'd had, all that kind of stuff. And I did that, and then I was like, oh, actually, I've only applied for 12 jobs, so it's not 1,000 jobs. That made me feel a lot better. So I'd recommend people do things like that.
I absolutely love that. Also, very kind of not engineering-y, but quite an engineering mindset with that, the analyzing the data and tracking in that way is so useful. So how did you come up with your criteria that you were talking about, or for the job searching and what you were going for?
I think I just thought about things that I'd enjoyed doing in the past. And then just that whole idea of wanting to have an overview of the energy industry, and then thinking about the big stuff that I wanted to do. So like at a really high level, I want to contribute to the solutions for climate change.
Yeah.
And then just work down from that, because I'm not going to be able to do that by myself, I don't think. Yes. Well, I can contribute, but not solve climate change.
That would be great, wouldn't it? I think you'd be world famous if you could do
Done.
that. Hey, magic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So you had the period. How long was it? Did you say 9 months that you weren't working?
Yeah. So I finished the E.ON job at the end of December, and then I started my next role on the 1st of October.
And how long did you anticipate it would take?
Oh, I was like 4-6 months or something. So it wasn't a lot longer. I think 6 months was like my panic date.
Yeah. being like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then
a bit scary now.
Did you feel that? Did you feel at one point did you have fears of, crikey, I'm not going to get a job again?
I think I probably did. I can't remember now, but I think there were days where I was like, oh God, what's going on?
What did you
I think I was also a bit scared that I would end up going back into doing like a similar job and not doing something that fitted. Is that the past tense of fit? I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
With what I wanted.
I get that. This is a common thread actually in worries. In if you're in a job that you don't like, or you leave a job, and then it's the worry about going to another one that is either just as bad or worse or similar to what you're doing. And I think that is such a common thing, actually. Out of interest, can you think back to your days at Eon? If you were going to kind of score it from 1 to 10, with 1 being terrible and 10 being amazing, what would you give it?
I did lots of different jobs there. So I've enjoyed most of them. I think the very last job I had scores a bit lower.
I like this. Yeah. You don't want that's probably quite too much of an honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not really for me. I mean some people there loved it. It wasn't for me. But I tried, I gave it my best shot for I don't know, it was like a year and a bit, and then thought, okay, nope.
That's that.
I'm off. Yeah.
So how long did you have in your job feeling a bit unhappy before you decided to leave? Was it a few months? Was it a couple of, like, a year?
It was probably, I mean, from the get-go, it was probably a bit like, oh, this isn't quite what I expected or wanted. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I had the feeling right at the beginning that I'm not sure this is the right job for me. But I gave it a chance. And then probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 months in was when I seriously started thinking, okay, what's next here? Mm-hmm. And again, I spoke to people. So there's a lady who I know through some volunteering stuff that I've done. And I had quite a helpful chat with her where she said, okay, think about the things that you don't like about this job, and think about what could be done to improve them, and talk to your manager and say, these things are making me unhappy. Can you do something about it? And she's like, and in your head, set a deadline. And if nothing's been done, then it's probably time to go.
Yeah.
So that was good as well.
That is some brilliant advice there.
I know, she's awesome.
Who is this person? I want to meet her. Setting deadlines is always a useful one, because otherwise things can just drag on, and that's where stagnation comes in, or letting the fear override everything. Although you are very good at leaping into the unknown, into things, knowing you as a friend. Also, what was the other bit of advice that she gave you? Write down the things that you don't like.
Yeah, and then talk to your manager, or someone there who maybe has influence to be able to change things.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm not happy because of these things, and then if you've got some solutions, suggest them. And see what happens. Like, not obviously, don't go in there and say, change these things or I'm going to quit, because that doesn't really work.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. But like, if you're unhappy somewhere and you don't tell anyone about it, then nobody will notice.
Yeah.
Unless you're like visibly unhappy all of the time. But yeah, like, give people a chance to improve things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried that, but it didn't work.
It didn't work. This is like knocks a nail on the head on one of the core bits of advice that I always give, or one of my sayings that I tell myself quite a lot actually is you either change it, you accept it, or you lead it. Either one of those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's all you can ever do, because I think we find that we try and control everything or feel like we can do everything all of the time. But if you've tried to change something at your work and it's not happening, then you either accept it and you stay, or you leave like you did. And it really boils down to those three simple things. Okay, cool. So you left, you had the 9 months. So in order to get Bays, was this through, did you get to know people before because you were mentioning that you were networking and doing lots of like coffees and meeting people. How did you land that job?
Definitely through networking. So it was, I think I had the idea in my head that government could be good. So I went on LinkedIn and looked at my network of contacts and saw who worked for government. There is a man called John Perkins, who used to be a chief scientific advisor at another government department. And he's a chemical engineer. I had organised an event for him to come and speak through volunteering that I do with the Institution of Chemical Engineers. And then I had bumped into him at various events. I didn't really know him that well, but I thought I'll just message and see if he's got any advice. And he was really helpful and put me in touch with people in the energy department. And from there, I managed to get a 6-month kind of secondment. So it wasn't a permanent job. And also, just to note, it was more junior than what I was looking for. So I took a step down, but it was something that I thought could get me where I wanted to be, and it has. Mm-hmm. So I think, and again, like people said, oh no, you shouldn't take a step down because you'll never catch up again. But I don't think that's true. So
you took the initiative to find someone that you didn't even know that well. You said that you only met him a couple of times at various events. A lot of people, I mean, are you ever scared about approaching people like that? Because I know that some people would be like, oh, I don't want to ask somebody for something when I don't really know them.
I mean, yes, and I know it depends what I am asking for. Like if I'm asking, I wasn't saying, hi, can you get me a job in government? I said, hello, I'm interested in this type of job and I know that you've worked there. Do you have any advice? And he just, I mean, I never expect anyone to reply when I send these messages. And a lot of the time I don't get a reply, but yeah, it worked out this time. I did things like when I was reading engineering magazines, if I read about a company or a person whose job seemed interesting, then I would look them up and maybe send them a message. And again, like, I don't know what percentage of the time I get nothing back, but it's still worth trying, I think.
Completely. And actually, if you've just made me think about how I've done all the, like, my snaking and progressing in my career and the various changes, and it is all through people that you know, all of it. You still sometimes have to go through the normal processes, obviously, of applying for things and everything. But if you can get that initial foot in the door and know and learn about the inside, it can also improve your applications as well, so that you can kind of get a bit ahead, or you're basically distinguishing yourself from the other applicants as well, aren't you?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's, I didn't plan for this to happen. So it's just happened. And without me volunteering for the engineering institutions, I wouldn't have made that connection and wouldn't be here. So I think sometimes people don't see the value in being involved in your engineering institution outside of work, but it can be, fruitful.
Well, you never know, do you? You never know who you're going to meet and how things are going to be connected. And it's amazing when you look back with hindsight, and it's like, oh wow, you can see the stepping stones happening quite early on. How did you know that it was the right thing to do? You said that you were stepping down and people were saying like, oh, you won't catch up and things. How did you know? Like, where did the decision come from for you?
I never know that it's the right decision. I just do it and see what happens. So yeah, I would say, don't spend too much time trying to decide if it's going to be the right decision, because you don't know till you've done it and look back. But yeah, I think I liked the people that I met when I did my interview. It seemed like it fit with those criteria that I had set for myself. It was a 6-month thing, so I didn't have to kind of stay there after 6 months if I hated it. Then I wasn't exactly doing anything else at the time.
So you're like, why not?
Yeah, and the office is quite close to where I live, so I wasn't going to be like traveling for an hour every day. So yeah.
Did you carry on the job searching alongside it?
Oh, I can't remember actually. I don't think so. I probably had enough of job searching by that point. So I probably focused on the 6-month job that I had.
Yeah.
And by that point, permanent roles had come up that were more senior. So I applied and got to what I'm doing now. So yeah, it was a bit convoluted, but I got there eventually.
So what are you doing now?
So now I am an innovation program manager. So I manage energy innovation funding, specifically on solutions to decarbonize industry. So for example, what am I working on that I can talk about?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so one of the programs that I manage is called the Low Carbon Hydrogen Supply Competition, and that is funding companies to develop low carbon hydrogen production technologies like electrolysis and so on.
Wow. This sounds really interesting, actually. And you get to work on lots of different things. So it's got the high level aspect. So how is your day job? If you think of what your day contained at E.ON compared to now, what is the difference in actual work?
I mean, my last job at E.ON, I was the manager of a control room. So it was a lot more hands-on and dealing with day-to-day issues that come up. So I had a team of operators who were in that control room 24/7. They were monitoring heating and hot water for over 25,000 customers. So it was very much like, this piece of equipment has gone down, we need to send somebody out to deal with it, and just dealing with that side of things. Whereas now it's a lot more strategic. So I am, for example, at the moment, I'm designing new innovation competitions. So looking at what technologies do we need in the next 30, 40 years, and what innovation do we need to do now to get there. So it's like, yeah, very, very different.
Really different. That's incredible. Yeah.
And I think I work with a lot of different people as well now. So in E.ON, it was engineers. Now I work with people who are policy professionals, with economists, with commercial specialists. So it's just a lot more disciplines and a lot more functions, disciplines, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So it's a lot more varied as well in the people and everything, a lot more dynamic. This sounds really cool. Can you tell me, you know how I asked you the question before of 1 to 10 on the scale, and you didn't give me an answer, but can you tell me how many points higher this one is? Because then we don't know, and you can forget about the 1 to 10 bit.
5.
Wow, that's pretty. That's big. That's a big jump.
It is a big jump.
That's definitely worth those 9 months of trying to find it.
Yeah, I would say so.
And was there any time during your 6 months secondment that you felt unsure about where you were heading?
Did I? Don't think so. I think I found it quite different at the beginning, so it took some time to get used to it. But it was good that I had taken that step down, because there was less pressure and there was the stuff that I was doing was manageable. So I could take that time to get used to the new environment and get used to it before being completely overwhelmed by everything. So that was good.
It was like a good lead-in almost.
Yeah.
Nice life balance too. Cool. Well, that's incredible. You kind of make it sound easy of doing this like complete shift.
It's not really like a complete shift. Doesn't have to be hard, I think. It can be easy.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about mindset around it as well. So what would you say were the most useful tools that you used, or the things that equipped you to do that transition? You've said networking is probably like one of the most important ones. What else?
My spreadsheet.
We love a spreadsheet.
But I mean that kind of tracking the information and what I was doing was really just like very, very important for me. So that was a really useful tool. I did use some services. So I'm a member of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and they have a kind of charity arm of the IET. And they can, if you're an unemployed engineer, they will offer you career coaching services. So I did use that. I can't think of anything else. I think those were the main things.
So let's move and shift to the other part of your life and your job outside of your day-to-day job, which is presenting on stage and on TV. You have most recently been on, I can't remember the name of it now. What is it called? Food Factories, right?
Yeah.
How they work.
Yes. Well done.
Yes. How was that? How did you even get that?
I think, I don't know how far back to go now. It kind of started from the Young Woman Engineer Awards in 2013, when I won one of the awards, the Women's Engineering Society one. And I think kind of like off the back of that, I was asked to present this program for BBC Learning called Design Challenge, which was for young people, and it was all about design and STEM. So that was good fun, and I really enjoyed doing that, and I wanted to do more. So since then, I've looked for opportunities to do that kind of thing. And I applied for a program with the BBC when they were looking for experts who were from a BAME background. And I got a place. So I did like a training day with the BBC, and then they created a list of everyone who had taken part in that training. And I think that list is accessible to production companies. And through that, I've been contacted a couple of times. And now, because when I've done a show, I might get contacted again by that same production company if they're making something else. So yeah, it's just grown that way, which is cool.
This is so cool. So you started small, and then it just kind of grew and slowly growing.
Yeah. It's been like years and years. It doesn't really happen overnight.
No.
But yeah, like I think since 2019, I've done one TV thing a year. So yeah, I did something very recently, which I guess I can't say what it is, but
do I know about this one?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I think this was
Are you allowed to tell me off? Because I want to know about it. Cool. Okay, good.
Shall I tell you now or later?
Later.
Cut it out. Okay.
Yeah, I'll save on the editing. We'll keep all this bit in.
Okay.
Everyone just have to wait in anticipation to see your face on screen sometime. That's really cool. And I know what that's like as well with it's a slow growth. And I had a dream once, and I thought that presenting could be done as a full-time job. And I have learnt over the past couple of years, it takes a very long time to build up any form of, the network, the skills and everything in order to do full-time presenting work. And actually most experts on TV have day jobs, and then they do presenting work on the side, don't they?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're a children's presenter, which I think is a bit different.
Yeah, but then you probably started doing that when you were like 6. I think I remember seeing Fern Cotton on, I can't remember what channel it was, but she did kids TV when she must have been, I don't know, 13 at the time.
She was so young.
It does definitely takes a really long time to build that stuff up.
Mm-hmm. So what are can you think back to the time when you were first doing it and the first talk that you ever did? Were you nervous for it?
I think the first one that springs to mind was a talk that I did when I was at university. So I spent one of my years abroad in Malaysia. And when I came back, I did a presentation to other students who might want to do that. I remember being quite relaxed for that. I think it was quite informal. So that was okay. But I've done, I don't know, like hundreds of talks now. Yeah. But I still get nervous sometimes. I also remember doing one talk with someone else when I first started working, and he was really nervous, and that made me really nervous. So that one sticks in my mind.
Filter through, doesn't it, when other people are a little bit like, oh my goodness, it kind of I don't want to catch your nerves.
But I think if I was doing that now, I could probably reverse that situation and make him not nervous. But at the time I was quite new, and it was like in a lecture theatre, so it felt quite serious.
So how long before you started to feel confident on stage and comfortable?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to pinpoint that moment. But I've been presenting regularly for 10 years, at least 10 years. And I still sometimes don't feel, I think I am able to come across like I'm not nervous, but sometimes on the inside I am.
Well, that's what makes a good presenter though, the ability to make the audience feel relaxed and come off in a relaxed way, but inside you're going, fuck.
Exactly.
Have you had any kind of oh shit moments when you're on stage?
Yeah.
Please share.
There was a thing I was invited to. It was the London Feminist Film Festival, and they invited me along to be part of a panel. So it sounded really amazing. We were going to watch this film and then have a panel discussion, and they had Chion Wara on the panel, who is an MP, and Anne-Marie Imafadden, who's just amazing. So we're sat in the front row. The film's about to start, and Anne-Marie kind of casually says to me, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she implied that I was chairing the panel and I wasn't on the panel. Then I was like, oh, shit. And I went to speak to the organizer. So I realized I was chairing the panel and I wasn't a member on it. So that requires quite a bit of pre-preparation, which I hadn't done. I had to introduce everyone who was there and think of some questions to ask. So I did not watch the film that we were watching. I went and sat outside the cinema on the steps and furiously made some notes. But it all worked out fine. And I usually like to over prepare. So it was quite helpful to know that I don't need to over prepare and I can come up with that sort of thing quickly if needed. But yeah, that's one that sticks with me.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought you meant that you had over prepared being on the panel, so you had already researched the other people, but you mean it the other way, in terms of being able to just be in the moment and get something done. That is huge to do that and to pull that off.
Yeah, that was good. And then there's like other, I don't know, just other times where, you know, I just forget what I'm supposed to be saying or whatever, but it's really not that big of a deal, I think, when you realize that no one is going to remember or care. It doesn't matter. Then it feels okay.
This is so true. The amount of times when before I got into presenting properly that I would fear the moment when you forget what you're going to say, or you say something wrong, or you mess up, you garble your words and things like that. And it's only when you're actually on stage and you do it and you're like, oh, that really doesn't matter. And it's quite liberating.
Yeah.
Are there any tools that you use, or is there anything that you find that is most useful for you when you're on stage? Preparing is obviously one of them.
I was going to say preparation. So yeah, just being like super prepared. So if I'm doing a presentation, I will normally practice that quite a few times beforehand, and then it just gets into my subconscious and I know what I'm saying and I don't have to think about what I'm saying. It just comes out. So I will sit there in front of a mirror and present to myself.
Yep. That's the way it goes.
But yeah, I think I don't have any particular kind of tools on stage. I think sometimes, like, if I'm feeling a bit nervous beforehand, I will just think of that first line that needs to come out of my mouth and know that if I can get that out, then everything else will be okay.
Yeah, it's quite a remarkable experience being on stage, really, isn't it? Because, like, I don't know if you find this, but I find that you're very much in the moment, and the only thing that you can do is carry on talking, whether you've forgotten something or you have to ad lib a little bit. There's literally no choice. It's quite, I don't know, it's a really interesting feeling.
Yeah.
How does it feel for you on stage? Have you had any like electric moments or fun moments or anything?
It's, you know, because we've been I haven't been on a stage for such a long time. It's kind of hard to remember. But I think doing the Ada Lovelace Live, which you did as well a couple of years ago, that was quite a big deal for me. And I put like a crazy amount of effort. It's a 10-minute talk, but I went all out. So that, because I put so much preparation and effort into it, the actual talk itself just kind of flew by, and it was a bit like being in a dream, and I don't really remember doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a bit of an out of body experience, or however you want to describe it.
Oh yeah, I had that for New Scientist Live, and I did that for that one. That was very similar. It's like you're very aware of yourself, that you're there and you're talking in front of these people, and it's like, oh, but then also the voice in the head is kind of quiet. It's not being like, you said that wrong, or you just get on with it. So what has been like the most interesting talk that you've done, would you say? Not that you've done, as in the most interesting experience that you've had.
I mean, I've got the Ada Lovelace Live thing in my head now, so it's hard to think about others. Probably doing like the bits of science stand-up comedy is just interesting because it's so different. And yeah, doing it with Science Show Off is a really nice experience because it's a nice audience and they will laugh at your jokes. So yeah, that was quite, but just so different to doing a presentation at work or whatever you might be used to doing.
And talking about presentations at work, have you ever been in the room where you're having to do a presentation in front of a bunch of experts when you know less than them?
Can't think of any examples off the top of my head.
But how would you deal with that if you had to do that? Because I know that I shout out to Rena, if you're listening, by the way, but one of the questions that I've had is, well, she's doing a presentation basically at work at some point, and they have to have like a debate afterwards. I think it's one of those internal presentations where you learn from each other and things, but a bit bigger than that. And having spoken to quite a few engineers, there is this fear that you just don't technically know enough, or somebody's going to ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. So what do you have any thoughts on that?
I think I would think of, why am I doing this presentation? So you're probably doing it because you're bringing something different that someone else isn't. So you might be doing that specific piece of work, so you will know more about that than the experts because they're not doing it. You might not be an expert in the field itself. So I would probably focus on the things that I know. And if someone asks a question and I don't know the answer, I would just say, I don't know, because that's fine. And I like something that I have noticed other people doing is, if they don't know the answer, they might answer a different question that they do know the answer to. So I think that's another trick that people use. And I think it's probably happened to me before. I don't realize that my question hasn't been answered immediately because you get caught up in whatever they're saying. So yeah, it just kind of depends. I think there are multiple ways of dealing with it.
Yeah, just I like what you said to begin with about focusing on what you can bring, because you're unique. Whoever's doing the presentation, you have a different angle, a different perspective, and whatever that is going to add value to at least one person in the room. So focusing on that one person as well can be really helpful.
And like if I was doing a presentation now, so if I'm doing something on hydrogen, I don't know as much as the actual companies who are doing the projects, obviously, but I can talk about the government side of it because I know that, but I wouldn't be able to answer deeply technical questions, but that's okay because that's not my job.
So really it's being okay with not knowing as well.
Yeah.
And accepting that just because you're the one on stage or you're the one giving the presentation, it doesn't mean that you do have to know everything, and nobody expects you to either, really. I think
it's hardest with kids when you do like a presentation to a bunch of school kids and they just think that you know everything. And most of the time I'm just like, I have no idea. That's a really interesting question.
That's always a good answer, actually, isn't it? When you say, I don't know, but that's a brilliant question. Well done. And then they're like, oh, well, but they're happy enough that they feel like they answered or asked a good question.
Yeah. And like sometimes I'll go away and look up the answer because I don't know. And that's like, I do that a lot at work, where if I don't know the answer, I'll say, I don't know, but I'll find out and get back to you. And I will go away and find out and get back to that person.
Yeah. And that's all you can do ever, really. I remember a moment at New Scientist Live when I wasn't meant to give any questions afterwards. And then they decided to randomly do questions. And I was like, shit. And it was such a random audience. It was like school kids, but they're also like 60-year-old engineers who are really experienced. And there was this one guy who asked me a question about batteries, and I didn't know the answer like at all. So I did what you said. And I answered a different part of the question, or he asked a 2-part question. So I focused on the part that I completely knew about. And then he tried to ask me again. He was like, you didn't answer all my question. And I was like, oh, but I think there's like some school kids over there who have a question. I was like, divert. And I think I managed to get away with it kind of, I don't know. And then I said, just come and talk to me afterwards and we can have a chat about it. So there's so many ways of handling it. And it's amazing what you can do in the moment as well, when you've got the adrenaline kind of pumping through your body. I mean, we could sit here and chat forever, but it's probably not the best thing. We've got dinner and everything to sort out. Food is important too.
It is.
I do want to finish on one question that I tend to ask at the end of this, which is, what do you think, what does a fulfilling career mean to you?
So I guess it comes down to values and something that aligns with my values, and that could change over time. I've got I have a life philosophy that I came up with a few years ago.
Oh, that's great.
It's very short and simple, and it's to enjoy life and help others. So that could be, quite varied. But yeah, so I think for me, I just want I want to enjoy my job, because I'm spending a third of my day there. And so it has to be something that I find interesting and that I enjoy. And then I want to do something that's helping others. So for me, that's about climate change at the moment, but also supporting my colleagues and doing talks for schools. And then like the presenting side of things is also something that I enjoy, but I also think it's important to communicate the value and importance of engineering.
I love that. That's like a tweetable, isn't it? Enjoy life and help others.
You can have it. Maybe I'll start a cult.
I'll put it a cult. Yay. Yeah. I can put that as one of your quotes from coming out of this podcast.
Sweet.
It's so true though. I mean, life is short. Why would you spend 8 hours, 5 days a week being miserable or unhappy or not interested in what you're doing?
Yeah, but I mean, some people love money, which is fair enough. And then, they'll do jobs as, I don't know, traders or whatever jobs there are where you make loads of money. Some people love to be under pressure. So it's what's kind of like valuable to me is definitely not the same for everybody else.
No, of course. And I mean, if money is the goal, then that's fine and that's good. And that will make your job enjoyable in itself, because you know that each hour you'll be counting how much you're earning, right?
Yeah.
You might hate the activity, but you enjoy what can I spend my money on this time? I did find though that I got locked into a lifestyle with my job a little bit before. So leaving my job and starting my own business meant that I could kind of distance myself from it and really look at what I was spending my money on, and help me again to align, as you said, with values more. And going into, as I am growing my business and as some exciting projects are coming up, as more money comes back to me, it's amazing the shift in mindset that I have towards it, which I just love as well. And the focus more on helping others as well. Rather than maybe thinking, I'm going to buy this very nice pair of shoes. Or it wasn't ever shoes. It was always food, to be honest.
Okay.
Smoked salmon, that's it.
You're just spending thousands on smoked salmon.
Yeah.
That is possible, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is actually. I think if you have a vice, that's it. What's your one thing that you would like spend a crazy amount of money on?
I don't know. I don't really have any. I can't think of anything.
Helping others.
I don't think I spend money on that. I could just do that myself. And that makes me sound like a bit too good. I'm not that good. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I guess, travel, although that's a bit obsolete at the moment as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's also why I've saved loads of money, because I was meant to travel around the world and that's what happened because of COVID.
Yeah.
So got the cash. Yay. Bit of a ramble ending. But I always love chatting to you, and I can't wait till we can chat actually in real life as well.
Yay.
That would be amazing. Have a glass of wine and all that. But thank you for
some smoked salmon.
I don't think we've ever eaten smoked salmon together. We will have to do this. Do you even
Sounds
like
good.
it?
Yeah, I'm up for some smoked salmon. Why not?
Sorted. Well, I'll look forward to that. And thank you for joining and giving all of your wisdom and being helpful as you like to be. With your advice and everything. Is there, if anybody wants to kind of get in touch with you, where's the best place for that?
I'm on the social media.
Telling our age now.
Yes. So Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. I have a website which is engineeryasmin.com. So that's a good way to get in touch. There's a contact section on there, or LinkedIn is good too. I would just say, if anyone does add me, please tell me why, because I get lots of random people connecting and I don't know who they are.
On
it's
LinkedIn?
Quite nice to know.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? It can get quite creepy.
Yeah, and it depends on my mood whether I accept or not. Sometimes I'm feeling friendly. And sometimes I'm not.
Yes.
But yeah, it's good. It's nice when people send a message just to say, this is why I'm connecting.
You. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, I will also put details in the show notes as well, and on my webpage as well, links to your website and your social media as well. But yes, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. And I will speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you got so much value out of that. I know that I did. Before you jump off, I just want to let you know that you can check out obviously all the other episodes, and I really recommend that you head over to episode 10, which is how to stay motivated when you don't like your job. Because if you're in a situation where you're not enjoying your job right now, then you kind of might be thinking, oh, I feel a bit guilty because I'm not as productive as I should be. And if you want to stay motivated whilst you're job searching, then definitely listen to that one. Also, if you're new here, then just to let you know, over on my website, you can go and get my free career boost, which is basically a weekly email. You can sign up for that, and I send you some tips and inspiration each week. And I also have a downloadable career clarity starter guide, and that is completely free. Just head on over to my website, which is www.hayleyloren.com/coaching. So that is it from me this week. Have an amazing rest of your day, and please remember, you are amazing. You are an absolute badass. Celebrate it. See ya.